Hey, we're Greaser Consulting. You're Houston for sales engagement. Every technology needs someone to administer it. Well, in this video, you're going to learn the keys to being an effective sales engagement platform admin. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey there, today we're going to be learning about the technical admin functions. We're doing a series on the functions of sales engagement, and it's kind of obvious, but you need someone to oversee the sales engagement platform from a technical standpoint. And so it seems obvious, but today we're going to learn hey, what do you really need to know? So I first want to start off. We got Jordan Greaser on the line. He is the founder, CEO of Greaser Consulting, and I just want to start off with Jordan, tell us what are the consequences of not having this function at all? What if someone misses it? What if they don't assign someone, hey, because people have Salesforce admins, they've got different people wearing different hats and overseeing stuff, but what if they don't assign a technical admin function, for the sales engagement platform?
Simple answer, pain. Jokes aside though, one of the best examples I have for this is one of our earliest clients going into their sales engagement platform for the first time and looking specifically at the number of people that they were running in their plays, their sequences. And they had been using the platform for about 6 months, and they didn't have anybody administering it. So we get under the hood, we check it out, and they said, hey, we put 4,000 people into sequence over the course of 6 months. Sounds fantastic. Sounds like they're learning the motions of the game. As we discover, though, we look in there, they have 3,750 people that are failed or pending as opposed to actually active in sequence because there was some variable messed up in the first template, or they created a sequence and didn't even turn it on. And so as people put folks into those sequences, nothing was actually happening. There was one rep, the guidance they were given was put 40 people in sequence a week. For 3 months, this rep put 40 people in every week, but he was putting it into a sequence that wasn't even turned on. So for 3 months, he literally got 0 results, didn't even send a single email through there, was completely frustrated with the platform, but was just following what upper management was saying. Hey, I have to use this silly tool to go put people in sequence, but nothing actually works. Again, simple things with their content. Their variables are messed up in the first template, and then holy moly, nothing actually sends. Actually, a safety mechanisms with these platforms so you don't send something that says hi first name as opposed to hi Theron. Actually a good thing. So we go in there, we switch things around super easily, literally takes maybe 1 or 2 hours for a quick fix, and then suddenly they actually have messages being sent out. They start seeing responses. And overnight, their investment of 6 months that feels like a complete failure actually begins to see success. So this is pretty drastic of an example, really. But that's exactly one of the reasons why I think, hey, if you don't have an admin, you're going to run into really silly problems that could really jam up your pipeline.
What I'm hearing is that not only will you have issues with your pipeline, right? If you don't have people in sequence and you're not actively reaching out and you're getting tasks to call people, emails aren't going out, things like that, you're losing out on pipeline. But the other thing I think that what might get missed here is that confidence in the technology is huge, right? And so if it's not working and it becomes frustrating, what happens?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. That's exactly the case. More often than not, the reason why these technologies don't take off isn't because we don't have a good strategy. It's not because they don't work in your industry. I'm telling you, we've seen them work across all industries. It's not because reps ultimately can't learn to use something like this. It's actually fairly simple. It's just that it wasn't set up right the first time, and then reps lose confidence in it. I mean, another example is just setting something like a default font for the organization. If you don't do something like that, you could have half of your font showing up as Times New Roman, half of it is Calibri or something like this. And then when you're
I
sending
like
out your
Lake Spartan.
templates,
Lake
yeah,
Spartan, real bold,
nice
the
and
little
bold and
sports
strong,
action there.
hot dog, right? But the
Yeah.
point is, like, they're sending out these messages and the font looks all messed up or screwy or the HTML got messed up. But with some simple just admin work to make sure we have the right settings in place, you stay away from all those things that make reps adverse to adopting something that's actually fairly simple.
Yeah. I think about some other consequences, perhaps that there's you lose out on pipeline, the adoption of the technology goes down because there's not confidence. There could be frustration. If someone is not getting things set up and optimized, it becomes a lot of pain. But the other thing is like, what about like visibility? Like, you've got this technology. It's promised to be able to provide visibility into what's what and help you learn more about your own sales process and what works and what doesn't. Like, tell me a little bit about that just from a technical admin perspective, like what they should be able to do.
Well, so already inside of these platforms, there's tons of reporting that you can get from email activity, call activity, even sales play effectiveness. Well, I mean, positive rates versus negative, what percentage are landing in objections. You can get some really good data out of there. But first off, that sort of comes out of the box with a platform, and managers and leaders don't even think, oh, I need to look there. So there's even just an awareness piece of this. But additionally, there's tons of data that are pumping out of these platforms that can go into your Salesforce or a BI tool like Tableau or Domo or something of that sort. And that's the beauty of something like this. We actually know what calls are being made, what emails are being done, and we can start to get insights off of that to say, hey, maybe after 8 touches, the significant knowledge is it takes 8 to 12 touches outbound. But really, when we do these plays in these industries, we stop getting responses after the 6th touch. So why are we doing manual emails on step 7, 8, and 9 and spending a ton of time whenever we've already lost the attention? So those are little adjustments that can go a long way. I mean, and that's not even to talk about the ability to do optimization like triggers, inbound, automatically updating stages based on call dispositions.
Yeah, hold on. You're gonna go into some stuff. So here's my next question. I think this will tie into what you're gonna talk about. I know you're getting revved up. You gotta watch it. When Greaser gets revved up, people, look out. All right. So what would you say is the technical admin that oversees the sales engagement platform? What's their like primary responsibility?
We got to make sure this thing's humming.
Responsibilities.
I mean, at the end of the day, their job is to make this platform feel so seamless for both the sales rep and the sales manager that it's just sort of plug and play. So, hey, we're going to run a new sales play. Let's make sure our systems are in place. We're ready to go. All the data is going back to Salesforce or whatever your CRM is here. We can check it out. We can analyze the data. We can make adjustments and move forward. Hey, we have a new strategy with how we're going to align marketing and sales. Previously, our marketing automation handled all of our inbound leads. Well, now we want it to sound like it comes from a human, so let's transition that into our sales engagement platform. The point is, the admin's job is to make sure nothing gets stuck and everything runs smoothly.
Got it. Now you started talking about some optimization stuff, some trigger things. What about that? Like if I'm like, hey, someone says, hey, we want you to oversee the technical admin function. We're buying the sales engagement platform, or maybe we've had it for a while, and I'm moving into this role. Like, what do I need to know? Like, how do I learn how to administer this thing? How do I optimize it so that it makes it easy for reps to use? What are some things that I should know?
Well, first off, all of these platforms have some type of university out there where you can log on their website, you can check out the university, and you can go through their admin training. There are certification programs like Outreach has one today, SalesLoft has one today. You can go out, you can get certified, and it'll teach you some of those functions. But one of the key things to note is this is not just like a regular sales ops admin position. So like sort of running around in a CRM today. This is a position where you need some sales process know-how. You need to know how to align like real strategy to the way the reps are working day in and day out. So it's really important that this position sits in a place where they're talking to the reps so they know what the reps are actually doing. They're having conversations with marketing so they know where marketing plays. And then they're having conversations with sales ops and sales management on where our system's at today, what do the managers want to see having done. And then they take all this knowledge together and they start to build out how that sales engagement platform really fits in their ecosystem. And the key here is that when you bring on a sales engagement platform, it will even change the way marketing automation works in your org. It will change the way that we set some things up in your CRM. It's more effective and more efficient, but you can't just slap it in there and say, hey, it's just going to work, it's done. You need to make adjustments across the board.
Got it. No, that's so good. What would you say are like the common problems that this function runs into, and how do they overcome them?
Well, really organizationally, the most common problem here is that the function doesn't exist. Whenever a sales engagement platform is purchased, typically if it's a smaller company, they'll give it to like a sales development manager and they'll say, hey, figure this out. And then a sales development manager hops in and it goes, well, I think we can do this, I think we can do that, but they don't know how this fits into all those larger systems. Once you start moving up market, usually it ends up being somebody in sales ops that runs this, but it's just sort of seen as an additional plug-in to the org as opposed to as like the system of action that really everything runs through. So I'd say that's the biggest thing is that there isn't
So
this.
you're saying people perceive it in a way that's like it's just another sales tool, but they don't necessarily allocate the resources for this, to carry out this function, because really, like you said, it's a system of action, right? It's like the cockpit for salespeople to execute the sales process. So it's a significant, part of your stack.
Well, and it takes a major focus. Even a good case in point is, again, going back to these inbound triggers that I was talking about, is if you don't have somebody in this position, I've seen situations where an SDR manager goes, oh man, we can create an inbound trigger that every new lead that comes in that waves their hand, we'll just put them in sequence. Well, then once we sort of zoom out a little bit, we realize that marketing automation is already doing that. So now when somebody comes inbound, we have marketing automation sending out an email that says, hey, when can we talk? And then your sales engagement platform doing the same thing, which that's a whole other conversation about marketing automation. Do you want the company's voice in this scenario, or sales engagement? Do you want the person's voice in this scenario? But my point is here, when you plug in these things, you have to know that putting somebody aside to really run the strategy is important so they can communicate those differences and those changes to other parts of the organization. It's a really big deal.
Yeah. Well, this is somewhat of a new function, right, out in the world. So more and more people are taking on this function of a technical admin. If someone wants to, if there's knowledge gaps that exist. Let's just be honest. Like, how do again, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but because there's very few experts, the knowledge is continuing to come out and stuff. But like, how do I learn? How do I get out there? Like, what would you suggest?
Yeah, well, again, these sales engagement platforms, they have universities. They also have member communities that you can sign up for, and they have forums that you can join. You can have conversations. So a good example is Outreach has the Peak. You hop in there, you can talk to other people. Additionally, one of the best things that I've seen, if you can sort of get away with this, is just get into the platform and try to break it. Click the buttons, explore every angle. I mean, there's all these nuances in these platforms where you can do things you never thought you actually could do.
Not while like people are in like sequence or in cadence, right? Like they're
Yeah. But what I'm saying though is like actually spend the time to check out all the buttons and try to build things. Create a little sandbox environment, build it and go with it. But really, a lot of the folks that end up being really good at administering a platform like this are your people that were that sort of SDR manager I talked about that started like they were an SDR, or they were a manager, they ran through this platform before, they actually know how it feels and what it could do, but they have sort of a sales ops bent to them, right? Where they're sort of developing into that sales ops role, so they have that awareness of the longer ecosystem. Those are really good finds for this type of position.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask, like, who are the right people for this type of role? If I'm a leader and I'm thinking, all right, we have to assign someone, this function, like, what type of person do you want? And so that I'm glad that you brought that out. Now, if you're watching this and you're a leader, one of the things, Jordan, I think it'd be important to share is, like, how best can a leader to oversee someone that has this carrying out this function, how can they best support this function? Like, what do they need to provide for this function to be able to do it, that job well?
Right. Well, first off, there's a realization that needs to happen that administering a tool like this, it's usually not one person who does everything. And so what we see time and time again is they'll say, well, Theron here, he's in charge of outreach. So he writes the content, he sets up the triggers, he does the Salesforce plugin, he does everything inside of there. Well, really.
Hold on. That's a common thing that we see, right? Is that someone will buy sales engagement and say, okay, this person's going to administer it. And when they say that, what they're really saying is they're going to oversee it from a technical standpoint. They're going to do content. They're going to look at performance. They're going to do like all these different things. And from a leadership standpoint, like they're going to train from a leadership standpoint. Oh, once we dub the person as the admin, like we're good to go. Like that's taken care of now, and this is going to work out well. And what you're trying to say is like that's the recipe for disaster.
Well, I mean, just think about this. Like, do you want somebody in sales ops writing your sales messaging, right? Think about that person who's the CRM junkie that, excellent in their role. Maybe they can write Apex code or, something crazy. They create these great systems, but you probably don't want them writing your sales messaging. I'm going to get in a little bit of trouble for saying this, just like you probably don't want marketing writing your sales messaging, right? You have specific people that do these specific aspects of the role. So the first thing to recognize is it's an unrealistic ask to have one person admin this thing that is writing, that is triggering, that is, setting up the plugin fields. It takes different types of minds. Now, every once in a while, you'll find that unicorn that can do it all. They are out there. But generally speaking, you need to play to the strengths of the different folks that are engaged in this platform. So I would say that's number one. The second thing is, and this goes back to really one of the first things that I said here, is that there's usually a lack of investment in this area. And I would say you should empower people to maximize this investment. So you were asking again, how do people learn? There's conferences that these SEPs put on. Send them to the conference so they can go be with other like-minded people so they can figure some things out. There's webinars that are hosted all the time. Encourage them. Hey, chisel out 2 hours a week to spend some time exploring and learning. Additionally, give them access to some other tools that fit in this ecosystem as well. I mean, Drift, for example, right, may not be an SEP, but it's a great thing to bring into the ecosystem for conversational marketing, that reps can come and trigger things right into like an outreach or a sales loft from platforms like this. Like there's a little ecosystem there that they can play in to really maximize the investment.
Yeah, that's really good. And just so you know, this video is a part of a series, that we're talking about the functions of sales engagement, because we want to bring light to, what is needed to support the sales engagement initiative, and to do it well, right? And the success can be sustained long term. And so Jordan brought up about, marketing, writing content. Make sure that you watch the videos that we have around, the content functions. It's really important because we'll hit on some of those things. But, well, thanks for watching, and I hope you got a lot out of this. And, we'll see you next time.
Hey, see you later, crew.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something that you can apply today. If you're not receiving our monthly Greaser Drip where we share our insights, make sure you go to our website and subscribe so we can get that to you. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel here so that way you don't miss any videos like this one. And don't hesitate to reach out. If you need help with your sales engagement efforts, we want to talk to you. We want to hear how we can help. And until next time, this is Houston. Over